What is up, people, and welcome to our new video. Today we're going to walk you through the first week of my new weightlifting training blog. As explained in our last video, I'm going to be transitioning from powerlifting to weightlifting, and now I'll be documenting my journey on a weekly basis. I'm with Maike today. She's going to interview me and she's going to ask a few questions regarding my training program, how my week went, and how the training is going in general. Just to give you a quick overview, my training is currently structured in 4 training days. So I'm training 4 days a week. The intention there is to keep the weights as light as possible, to dial the technique in and get more proficient in the Olympic lifts. So on my first training day, I had my first exercise and it was an overhead squat. The idea in the overhead squat was to sit in the deepest position for at least 3 seconds, just to feel more familiar in the lowest position and to basically gain stability there.
Did you feel any differences when you were having a different squat stand? Because I think you started pretty narrow. Was there a huge difference when you adjusted it, or would you even improve that further?
Yeah, you're also seeing this now in the clip that we're going to lay over my training videos. Is that the main difference or the main difficulty for me is my hip mobility. So I'm having issues to get into the deep squat position and stay upright at the same time. So adjusting my stance and basically standing a little bit wider basically gives my hips a little bit more room for a deeper squat. So I noticed I started a little bit more narrow in the beginning and then went more wider, and I think hopefully you can approve this. My depth was a little bit better when I increased my stance with
I mean, even the longer you're pausing in the squat position, the better your depth is going. So in the beginning it's pretty high, but then the more often you actually do this exercise and the more you pause in that position, it's getting better and better. So what was next actually on your agenda for your training program?
Yeah, then I moved to cleans. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning the weight up and then moving to a front squat. You're seeing that I'm here also having issues hitting my depth. So the front squat, I would say, is okay, but it can always be deeper, especially in the future when the weights are getting heavier. The catch position, I think, is going to be a little bit lower. And what you're seeing here also is my second main problem I currently have, or the second challenge I currently have, is staying really straight and staying really upright in my upper back during the starting position. So you see, from deadlifting a lot during my powerlifting times, my upper back tends to round a little bit. You're also seeing this here a little bit better, that I'm having trouble with full extension. And the goal there is basically to have a fully straight back and start from that position.
And probably what's adding up as well, and you see that in those clips, is that Jonas' squat stand again is pretty narrow, and even if he speeds up the bar and is setting his feet, it's almost not moving, and with that he's not, having the proper squat stand to actually get into the respective depth of the front squat position. Plus his elbows are usually a little bit down. With the light weight which he has right now, it's fine, and he probably can hold it, but at some point, probably if the weight is getting more and heavier, it will be probably an issue if the elbows are not up, because at some point the weight would just slip off.
Yeah, correct. That's what I'm working on. Also, my next exercise on that day was overhead press, which was not too difficult for me from a technical standpoint, since I'm used to doing overhead press since a few years now already. So yeah, doing this was actually quite fun, and it was nice to have an exercise which is familiar to me. Speaking about exercises that are familiar to me, next exercise was indeed squats with really light weights. You're seeing 75 kilos here on the screen. I worked up to 80 kilos on that day, and the idea, similar to the overhead squat, was to stay or to pause and stay in the bottom position for at least 3 seconds. You're seeing here when you're counting. I did not follow these instructions, very strict, so I'm working on this during my next training week to pause a little bit deeper and a little bit longer.
And adding to this, the guidance from his coach was also to keep the chest up. So even if you squat and you get up again, try to get that posture again, keep the chest up and do the squat position again. And that should help as well to, well, have an upright position and don't have this round upper back, which you've seen in previous lifts. I think that was it with the first day, right? How did you feel afterwards? Like, did you feel well? Did you have sore muscles, or what was the feeling after your first day?
First day felt good. I was not sore. Of course, it was exhausting, especially because the lifts are super technical and I'm not used to train these lifts, for example, with a higher intensity or with a higher volume. And yeah, but overall, it felt great. I'd say let's move to day 2. Yeah, so here I'm doing snatches with 40 kilos, so still really lightweight. The training plan prescribed me to do at least or to do 6 sets, working up to 45 kilos. As you're seeing here, the main thing I have to focus on while snatching, of course, staying in the bottom position, getting more familiar with a deep catch position, and then also to force or to aim for full extension. You're seeing here that I'm not always full extending in the hip while I'm pulling. So these are the 2 things I need to focus on right now. Next to of course stance. I've currently some issues with like stance same as with the overhead squat, but we're working on this. Okay, then next exercise, push press. Also quite familiar. It's not too different from the classic overhead press. So I was used to this movement, was not too heavy. Still one thing I needed to focus with this exercise or in this exercise was that that I time the flexion or the extension of my quads and the second where I'm pressing. I needed to find the correct timing here. I was having issues in the first 2 or 3 sets to find the perfect timing. But I think here with the last set you're seeing is quite okay.
And again, in that exercise, it's super important to keep the chest up. So if you do the dip, that you're not crashing like this, but you keep the chest up and it's just like a very smooth movement, very strict line or straight line. And I think that's what you've done already pretty well. So good job.
Thank you. Then moving on to clean pulls. Same with the other exercises. Lightweight, focus here is to fully extend, trying to force this there in the top position you see. Other than the deadlift, where you basically stop pulling at hip height, the idea here with the clean pulls is to basically increase speed when you're reaching basically the middle of your quads. You're trying to fire as much as possible and to pull as hard. And I think, in this exercise, basically, I did not do a bad job. Or what do you think, Mike?
I think it's getting better, especially because he got the clue that he should start pulling very slow from the floor and then gradually increase the speed so that you don't have 100% high speed already from the beginning, because then you're messing just your movement up. So I think that is what went better already. The only thing which sometimes is happening is that the bar is going a little bit too far away from your body. So you'd actually try to keep the bar super close and to pull it up or to speed it up super close to your body. I think that is a small improvement in that regard.
Yeah, right. So to wrap up day 2, I had breathing front squats on my plan, basically meaning that you do not fully lock out your hips at the top position of the squat. Same here, you try to always reach full depth, stay upright, keep your elbows up, and this is what I what I still need to work on. It was still quite light in terms of weight, but still it's always a challenge for me to keep my elbows up to reach proper depth. But here I think in this last set it went quite okay, but still, as it's week 1, I think it can only get better from here.
Plus, I mean, maybe it's lightweight, but how many reps do you have to do?
4 sets of 8 reps, so the volume is still not that low, which in the end, of course, is going to be exhausting, but it also gives me a lot of practice, a lot of time to practice. Okay, moving on to day 3. Day 3 also started with a snatch variation, basically a muscle snatch combined with an overhead squat. Things I need to think about here, basically the same as with the classic overhead squat. So keep my chest up, doing the bottom position, go as low as possible, rest in the bottom position, and just yeah, funny people in the background. Here you're seeing I'm thinking about similar things as in the regular snatch, so trying to fully extend my hips, basically to generate the most amount of force from that movement. And when I'm finished with the muscle snatch, basically to do a proper overhead squat. There I also noticed that the stand width was an issue, so I needed to basically widen my stance a little bit to increase steps, and this went a little bit better.
And I think it's also a perfect exercise because it teaches you that you have to have the right path of the bar, and you have to speed up the bar correctly in order to get it overhead, right? Because you don't drop yourself under the bar, but you have to kind of speed it up to get it on top of your head. Plus, I think it's, again, and that is also what was the case for the first day, it's a good exercise to learn to keep the postures during your actual squat position, and to have or hit the respective depth of the squat position. So yeah, challenging exercise, but good to learn, I would say.
Yeah, correct. Then followed by cleans again. So I'm doing this exercise actually 2 times a week. So here, similar cues. I have to think about pulling slow from the ground, then setting my feet a little bit wider, fully extending at hip level, and then when I'm hitting the catch position, trying to bring my elbows up so I do not crash super hard. Here my coach is actually yelling at me to bring my elbows up and basically to stay more stable in this position. Here, next exercise, snatch pulls. Same with the snatch. I do have a little bit of issue, or I do have a hard time to get in a proper starting position. You see a little bit of rounding still in my upper back. So this is something I'm forcing here. I'm trying to get the back a little bit more straight, and then when I'm reaching the middle of my quads, I'm trying to fully extend my hips and then pull the bar to around chest level to fully extend. Alright, so next exercise on that day to finish off the day 3 was squats. The twist here from the other day where I had to do back squats is that I do not pause at the bottom. Still, things I need to think about here: keeping the chest up at all times, avoid basically the forward lean, avoid my chest caving in, focus on going to a low position or to a deep squat position, and keep the tension in my back, and then basically in my upper back at all times. Here seeing 80 kilos, that was the heaviest I did on that day. Actually did a few sets, so you're seeing me a little bit tired here.
Did you have to do again 8 reps? Is it all days the same, 8 reps for whatever you do, front squat or back squat?
No, so for back squats I'm only doing 5 reps, however doing 4 sets of 5 reps. And then for front squats, I'm always doing 8 reps. So the reps are a little bit higher on the front squat and a little bit lower on the back squat. but still the weight is a little bit heavier on my back squat days. Now moving on to the final day, I started with hang snatches at hip level. I basically did a little dip and then went to a full snatch. Things I need to think about here, of course, full extension, then trying to hit depth or trying to squat down in a low catch position, and then trying to stay stable and then squat up again. Here I'm doing 42 kilos. I'm still relatively light, but it's nice to practice technique and gain confidence in the snatch in general.
And here you pretty much see again that Jonas is not feeling super comfortable in the squat position. So you actually see that he is doing kind of a power snatch, stops for a second, and then is going into the actual squat position. So it's always a two-phased movement. And what he's trying to do is to get more comfortable and to be at some point able to just squat down right away.
Yeah, right. Then the hang snatch was actually followed by a quite exciting exercise. I did my first jerks with a split. I never did this split before, so it was interesting to learn this movement here during my training session. We did a few priming movements to basically see which leg needed to go first, and then to figure out my stance and to figure out which position feels the most stable. And here my coach is basically guiding me and giving me a few cues and giving me a few exercises to actually prime myself for the movement to get into a stable position. And I did squat jerks a few months ago, but these did not feel very comfortable. They felt quite strange and not that stable. But here, actually you're seeing this in a few seconds. I was able to jerk 40 kilos during my first session, so it actually felt quite nice. And here you're seeing how he's helping me, how he's giving me, or the tips he's giving me to basically go from full extension when you're pushing the bar up to the position and where you need to put your feet during the final jerk end position. Yeah, here you're seeing my final weights I did that day. I did 3 reps with 40 kilos, still a little bit shaky, and I was still holding the final position, and my coach was correcting me since I always had issues with basically balancing the weight between my 2 legs. I always had the majority of the weight on my leg that was in front, and then you see here I always had to adjust a little bit, move the weight to my leg that was at the back, and then stabilize. But in the end, the exercise felt good. I felt confident with these weights, and I think we can basically push this exercise a little bit harder during the next weeks, while of course practicing technique.
One thing which has been also corrected pretty often when Jonas did the split jerk was to lift his heel from off his leg, which is basically going to the back, because it was usually or mostly flat on the ground or just a little bit lifted. So that was one thing, for example, which happened a lot during those sets, but also throughout the next weeks and months, we try to keep an eye on how the end position of the split jerk looks like, so it can be corrected. Because if you do it yourself, you don't necessarily feel that something is off, or that your feet is maybe too short or your heel is too much on the ground. So that's why we try to keep an eye on it to improve it, so that he gets kind of the feeling how it should actually feel like.
Yeah, right. So that was fun. Then after that I did some clean pulls, so similar exercise I did the previous day, and then I did some front squats to finish up the session. The twist here compared to the breathing front squats was that I was allowed to lock out at the top. I was able to rest a little bit, brace again, rest a little bit, and then basically get energy again to do the other reps. Still, it was still quite light. The weight was not too heavy, 65 kilos in total. And here you see Maike offering me some snacks after my set, offering me mochis after my set, which I desperately needed since the week was already quite exhausting with all the reps and sets. But still, I'd say the week was good. I was able to learn a few tips and hints. I was able to improve my technique most of the time, and I think I'm ready now for week 2.
Most important question. What's the feeling of having squats 4 times a week? Twice front squats, twice back squats, coming from a powerlifter. Just having, I think, maybe squats once a week. How do you feel? How was it?
I felt roasted, especially during my last powerlifting block. I only had squats, so proper competition squats, once a week, and then on my second leg day I basically only had assistance and belt squats. So yeah, it was quite intense coming from this and starting with the weightlifting plan and then going straight in with squatting 4 times a week. But you also saw the other movements, so there's always some sort of squatting and deep squat position involved, so snatching, cleaning. So it's quite demanding, but I think the first week went good. Still feeling good. My body feels fresh, so I am mentally and physically, hopefully, ready for week 2. And that's it, I think. That's gonna wrap today's recap of week 1. We hope you liked it, and of course stay tuned for the week 2. Tag along, and we'll see you. Peace.